Welcome back to the Scare Stuff Podcast. This is your host, Mike, and my co-host, Scott. How are you doing today, my friend?
Doing good. I'm doing pretty good. We didn't get hit by a storm, so I'm happy about that.
Yeah, I kept seeing memes where it says state so bad that the
That's so
hurricane
fucking
actively...
stupid. That's so fucking dumb. Like,
It's just weather, bro.
Imagine being lucky enough to not have your town destroyed and you're like, oh, it's because it avoided us because we're so shitty. It's like, I wish you died in a fire. Like,
yeah.
it's just so
happens a lot. Happens a lot though. It seems like we always there's a decent chunk of storms that are always going to hit us.
It's
and
just
then,
the corners.
Yeah, I know, but like they always say, oh, it's going to come straight through the state, and then as it gets closer and closer, it starts to just start veering off. It happens a lot for us.
Well, that's because we're on the coast though. Like hurricanes tend to follow more towards the ocean than they do like the area.
Yeah, because as soon as they leave the ocean,
touch down in like Rhode Island, like
yeah,
storm...
as soon as it hits land, it dissipates. That's the thing with hurricanes.
It touched down the exact same area. The last storm touched down, I think, like 7 years ago or something.
Yeah, Sandy.
I think it was. I don't know if it was Sandy, but there was another storm that was going around the coast too. It wasn't as big as this one was supposed to be, but it touched down in the exact same place.
Definitely wasn't Sandy then.
Sandy destroyed a bit of Connecticut.
Yeah, it just seems it's kind of funny because it always seems like we hype up these storms and then they always veer off.
I think
not always.
It's good though because like you'd rather be prepared than ill prepared. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. I just think it's really funny.
Yeah,
because it seems to happen a lot where we get if we don't get concerned, we get clobbered. If we do get concerned, it doesn't clobber us.
Yeah, so, I'd rather it be
prepared and then not get clobbered.
Because
did you lose power at all? I lost power very briefly.
Didn't lose shit. Did you guys? I mean, you probably have a backup generator in your area, right?
Not that I'm aware of. I think it wound up being like a tree, like kind of rested on a telephone pole,
like a tree limb or something that was pulling on it.
Yeah.
We didn't.
If something actually came down, we'd be done.
The rain was heavy. I mean, later in the day, I went to go grab some food, and I went inside like a local area, and just the floors were soaked. Like a carpet was full of water, which means water was really getting in there. They even said in like the Connecticut area that the thing you have to watch out for most is flooding, more so than like damage. But let me tell you a story I have. I went to a party Friday, and when I was leaving, I didn't leave till like 2 a.m.
Yeah.
There's a cop parked in the middle of the road, straight on. Okay? And it's because they're trying to get some trees away because they fell. I understand what he's doing.
Oh, okay.
But he's in the middle, and there's another cop parked on the right side and one on the left. Usually all police vehicles are parked on one side, so if you have to go around, you know which area the cop's going to send you around, right?
Yeah.
It's common sense. So there's 3 cop cars. They're all parked sporadically. I don't know which way I'm supposed to go now, so what do? The cop's there. There's another like big vehicle with floodlights, so you can't see anything. So I just see the cop with a stick, and he's going like this. And I'm thinking he's saying, all right, he's waving me to the left side. I can't really tell because he's blinding. And I go around, and the cop just shuffles over and starts shaking his hands. I'm like, okay, cool. I don't go to the left side. I'll just stop, veer towards the right. The cop comes over, and he's like, what do you think you're going to do? You're going to run over these people? And I'm like, hey, officer, the floodlights are on, and I can't see. And it looked like you were waving me to the left. And I stopped, and I apologized, but there was no clear intention of what you're doing. He's like, I got the stick on, I'm trying to wave you. I'm like, trying to tell you to stop. I'm like, officer, you're not telling me to stop, though, because you're not giving a direct signal. I apologize if I'm misreading that, but there's not much I can do. And, like, I am always polite to the police. Always. Not gonna cause any problems, especially in summertime, because my skin tone gets way too dark. So I try to be as polite as can be. He's being a fucking douche. He's being a super asshole. I apologized like 4 times politely and very seriously. And he's like, oh, you gotta get that in, and like at the end of it, I said, hey man, I apologize and I didn't do anything wrong. So I don't know what your fucking problem is. So I just veered out, backed up, stopped there, and I waited for him to send me to go. Waited like 10 minutes for the debris to get out of the way, and I went through, and I'm like, fuck this guy. I was in such a bad mood. I'm like, it's 2 a.m, dude, and you're shooting floodlights on, and you're gonna give me shit, dude? Take the badge off, see what happens. I was so fucking pissed.
Yeah, I don't blame you. That's fucking ridiculous. You know, if you're putting someone in a situation where they can't fucking see what's going on the road, and if you're waving a stick, like this is stop.
You have to be direct about it. Like that's the thing. Like he's just waving it like that, and I'm like, hey man, those are not direct signals. You already are getting $100 an hour for being at this location for being a police officer. At least do your fucking job. Like I don't know what to say. Like it's ridiculous. It was so annoying.
95% of the time that I've run into cops where they're directing traffic or you know whatever, something's going on the street and they're blocking off, when they say stop, they're doing this.
Yes.
They're saying stop or stop. They're not waving. When you wave, it looks like you're saying go this way or go that way.
That's my thing. And it's like, you don't even need the stick. Like, first of all, if you're going to be directing traffic, usually officers sometimes have a sign that says stop. Especially if it's dark out and you're shooting floodlights. All I'm going to see is a big fucking red hexagon, and I'd be like, oh, I got to stop. He didn't have anything, he just had the stick, and I'm like, okay, I can't tell what you're doing because you're not being precise about it. So it's not my fault. You're the fucking idiot.
Yeah, and there's also really no reason for him to be that kind of aggressive about it. You could just say, hey man, you know, I was trying to tell you to stop.
And that's the thing, like, there was one time where you didn't work with me yet, but I was working in Simsbury, and there was this big truck, and everyone's driving around him. So I get behind him, I try to go around him. Ironically, as I'm trying to get around him, a police officer's trying to walk across. I almost hit him. And like, I was like, oh shit, I almost fucking hit a cop. And I pull over to the side, he's like, what do you think you're doing? I'm like, I'm sorry, officer, I just didn't see you because the truck and people were going around. It's my mistake. He goes, no, it's okay, I get it. And like, that interaction is like, you know what? He gets it, he understands, I made my point clear and concise. That guy, decent human being. This guy put me in a fucking boxing ring with him, I swear to God. Like, it was ridiculous.
I know some cops that were like that where we lived, you know, back in the day. You know, we had one my dad used to refer to. He knew him like by face. He used to refer to him as Wyatt Earp because he just thought he was a fucking sheriff, man. He just thought he was, you know, the guy who ran the town.
I think the area I was in is not the town I live in, but next door, you know, like between me and our buddy Connor's house, that area.
Yeah.
So they just have nothing to fucking do. So apparently he's
not really a town.
In his fucking bridges.
Yeah.
Like, thanks, loser. You've now wasted my time and made a complete jerk of yourself. Pretty sick.
Yeah, absolutely ridiculous.
So, didn't mean to go on that tangent.
Huge deviation from what we're actually talking about today.
Pretty interesting,
you know,
though. So,
whatever, you know, fuck that guy.
The film we're talking about is Puppetmaster. This is your.
As you can tell from the little figure down your
I got
the bottom
all
of your
camera.
camera.
I got all.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because they come in like 2-packs. So you get Blade and you get Torch. He's from the second movie. You haven't seen him yet.
Okay.
And then you get Pinhead and Tunneler. Oh, I know it's gonna come. I'm gonna be a bit sneezy.
My favorite puppet is not the puppet I was expecting it to be.
Yeah, I love the franchise right now. I made my way starting through it, and I watched the first one maybe a month ago. No spoiler, I didn't watch this as recently as you did because I've been watching all of them. I'm not gonna go through and watch this film again. It's very fresh in my mind. But yeah, I've been watching through all of them. I'd say it's maybe been a month or so, and there's 12 or 13 films out now.
Yeah.
And I knew when I watched the first one, I'm like, okay, this is a start. Let's see where it goes from here. And other films are way better. Other films are way worse. It's the biggest deviation of quality as films go on. There's a pattern, I'll say that much. But the first film became a cult classic. It's a very, very low budget direct-to-DVD movie. All of them direct-to-DVD. So you have to set your standards for what you're getting. You're not watching a fucking theatrical film done by a fucking up-and-coming director who's gonna make a name for himself. It's no Wes Craven, it's no John Carpenter. It's not even a fucking Sean Cunningham. So I have quite a bit of questions to ask, but first off, I want you to give the synopsis of the first film as you've just recently seen it.
Fuck that.
Would you rather me do it?
Yeah, because honestly, it's just like this is. I could give a synopsis, but like this movie is
A lot.
kind of all over the place. So
Puppetmaster is about a puppeteer who fled from Nazi Germany to the United States. And as he flees, the Nazis follow him, and he dies. And they're after him because he has this secret formula that brings things to life. It reanimates them, and he uses it on his puppets. So he hides the formula and he hides the puppets, and he kills himself before the Nazis find him, so they can't get the formula. And then it's in this hotel room. Somebody somehow finds the formula, gets the puppets, havoc ensues, and then there's people that are psychics that are there, and they're caught in the midst of this big puppet royale, and that's how it goes. I don't want to go into too deep about it because we're going to talk about it as we progress through this. The first film is, you'd be surprised, it's way more convoluted than the rest of the franchise.
yeah,
Way more convoluted.
I mean I don't know for sure because I haven't seen the rest of them, but this is definitely quite convoluted. I'll say that much.
Well, it's funny because at the later end of the films, they start bringing in like psychics and stuff like that, and it kind of makes sense, I guess. In a way, it's stupid, but it's it's stupid. But in this, it's a plot point that they're all psychics, and it's kind of just fucking dumb. Like,
Yeah.
first off, I guess the first thing I want to say is, Mike, how do you feel about the movie?
Oh, this movie's terrible.
It is, yes.
This movie's awful. I mean, it's really bad. And it's really the part about it that's really, really like disappointing is that the opening, like I'd say probably 10 minutes of the movie are actually pretty good.
Yeah, the entire
Very
opening with
intriguing.
puppets.
Yeah, it's very intriguing. Everything that happens in the 30s, that's all very interesting. And then as soon as the psychics come up, as soon as the psychics show up, goes to shit instantly. None of them, only one of those characters I find remotely interesting.
That's nice of you. I don't like
Maybe
any of
two.
them.
Maybe
I
no,
don't
no.
like any of the psychics.
The only one I like is
Don't say that.
Dana.
You like her?
Not
She's-
necessarily that I like her. She's like a terrible human being. Don't get me wrong, but like
you like the character.
I find her as a character to be the one that has the most fascinating aspects to her character. The rest of them are planks of wood.
I guess she's fascinating.
Actually, no. You know what? Clarissa.
Her acting is so bad.
Clarissa's interesting too.
She's fine. Yeah.
Just because her and her husband, it's just really funny at times.
It can be, yeah.
It's just ridiculous.
He
It's
can be
just
funny,
absolutely
or it can
ridiculous.
be extremely cringeworthy.
Cringy, yeah.
Yeah.
But I do find the idea like everybody's like a traditional like a version of a psychic. They're studying certain things. She's just a fortune teller,
Yeah.
and she's actually like doing magical like witchcraft shit around the hotel, which is kind of funny. And she's getting drunk and insulting people, and she's got the Southern Belle accent that I find to be interesting. All this stuff, like I'm not saying like she's remotely a good character, she's not, but she's the one I found the most interesting out of all of them.
So this is the biggest problem with the first movie. I think every character is remotely just bad. I don't like any of them. I think Alex is the worst lead you could have for a film. He's so bland. He's so boring.
So dull.
I don't
He
give
is
two
so
shits.
fucking dull.
Dana can be like, her acting can be really bad, but at
All,
least
all of their acting can be really bad.
yeah, but like it's just the accent is like, oh my god, you're not even, what the fuck is
You
this?
see, the accent never bothered me. Really? Yeah, for her, that never bothered me. Not nearly as bad as some of like the acting out of like Clarissa, and how just dull Alex is, especially.
Oh.
And Megan's not very good either.
She's the best only for the fact she has the least to say.
Yeah, she barely talks.
Yeah. It's
But
just,
when she does, there's some moments where it's like it's really bad.
yeah.
So,
Gallagher is horrible.
oh my god. Jesus.
He's so hammy. So this is why when I talk to you about watching the films, I would say the second one's cool, the third one's the best one, blah 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 blah. I'm going through. I purposely never talked about the first one. I mean, like, I really don't like the first movie.
I just find it amazing that this is a franchise. I understand that it's direct to video, and it probably made its money and all that stuff based on people like renting it from Blockbuster or something, or all the stuff like it's something you can take home and just watch a horror movie. You don't have to go to the theater, all that stuff. Like, you can just buy it, take it home. But like, this movie's awful. It has an interesting backstory. The whole stuff with Toulon and the puppets, cool. But everything else, almost every single other aspect about this movie that's not the puppets is fucking terrible.
Yes.
So when I look at this and say, wow, this has like,
everything-
what, 9 movies or something? Like a ridiculous amount of movies.
There's 13.
13 fucking movies based off. It came after this piece of trash.
But it's not based on this movie, though, is the thing.
No, I understand that.
It's
but
all
like
based
the name
on
of
the first 10 minutes.
the brand of Puppetmaster. This movie came out. It's a cult film.
Yeah.
A lot of people. There's a lot of like cult adoration for this movie. I do not understand it for a second. Other than
Because
the
it's
first 10
the
minutes.
franchise,
If all of you seen is the first 10 minutes, fine. I'm sure the rest of them are great. I'm just talking about like back in 1990 when this came out. Why the fuck this became a franchise?
Well, let me ask you the same question. Why did Friday the 13th become a franchise?
There are aspects about that movie that work more than this one does, though.
But it's all based
And I
on
would
the
argue
fact
that
the
movie
mythos-
becomes a but also that's riding the coattails of a trend.
Yeah, but so is
Friday the 13th.
Puppetmaster.
Yes, but one of them is more well made than the other one, in my opinion.
Oh, 100%. But like, it doesn't. It comes down to the fact where it's like, I've already said this before, as you have agreed. Some horror fans are stupid. Some horror fans they don't care about quality as much as the fun, deaths, or gore, or all that shit. And Puppetmaster.
Yeah, this doesn't even do that right though. Like,
Puppetmaster came out in 1989, and this is when stuff like Child's Play came out in 87. Leprechaun came out, I think, in 94. Like, you have these like small, inanimate, or like otherwise just non-real
all magical
creatures
objects or whatever.
just
Yeah.
become the monsters of these movies. It became really
Yes.
big, and Killer Dolls is still fucking super big. Annabelle's
Yeah,
out.
Annabelle's
Dead
huge.
Silence. Like, there's so many popular like puppet or doll killers.
Yeah,
And
of
the
course.
best thing about it is some of these designs are really different and unique. When I first saw this movie, I'm like, I don't like a decent amount of the designs, but as I kept watching the films, I'm like, okay, I really like this one now. I really like this one. Okay, this one's a little bit better. And now by the end of it, I'm like, I think I like every single one of the puppets. Which in the first movie, I
Yeah.
think I didn't like maybe 3 of them. And now I'm like, no, they're all great.
I like them all. I like all the puppets.
And I think the puppet designs are really cool. And first off, let me ask you, what's your favorite design for the puppets? And then second, what's your favorite puppet?
Favorite design? Oh, I can't remember the name of the puppet, but it's the one with the spinning faces.
Jester.
Yeah,
This
Jester.
one right here. He's not a NECA one, but Full Moon did their own action figures, and by action figures, I mean it's just molded plastic that doesn't move.
Yeah, it looks terrible.
Yeah, it's bad.
I like Jester. It's the final one that the Puppetmaster actually made, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Jester doesn't do anything really,
It's just got a great design.
other than expression, which I found actually really entertaining. It caused some pretty decent laughs, like when Gallagher fucking absolutely massacres and punches the shit out of his wife for just ridiculous.
And he
Ridiculous.
switches
But
the face up and does the.
it's basically a surprise.
Yeah.
And it's just like that. I have to assume that that's kind of supposed to be funny,
Yes.
and it is funny. Not the obviously not the punching part, but the surprise face reaction. That's pretty cool. Also, I don't know. I watched the special feature. I say special feature singular.
Yeah.
On the Blu-ray that you gave me. Very disappointing lack of special features, but they don't really talk about Jester, and that's the puppet that I want to learn the most about. The only one that they really show you much about, the only ones that they show you really much of are Pinhead, Blade, and I don't remember her name, but the
Leech
girl
Woman.
that spits up, Leech Woman. They show those 3, because they show that like for like the sequence where Dana's getting punched by Pinhead, it's a little woman with her hands sticking them through punching her.
Isn't that really cool?
Yeah, no, I think Pinhead's well, I'll just answer that question. Pinhead's my favorite.
Yeah,
I love Pinhead. I was expecting Blade to be my favorite, but Pinhead's definitely my favorite, and Pinhead seems to do the most.
Yeah, Pinhead's in the first film. Pinhead's the most aggressive. He's like a giant. He's like, well, not a giant because he's a puppet. That's tiny, but compared to them, he's like the fucking bouncer. It's so funny.
It's kind of funny because like on the outside looking in at the Puppetmaster franchise, I associate the franchise with Blade.
100%. Blade is the icon.
He doesn't do. I mean, he does do some stuff in this, but like he's really not doing the heavy lifting in this. Pinhead does a lot more, and I would say Leech Woman does a lot more.
I think the reason is because they knew Blade was a great design, and that's why the opening shot they're following Blade out of all the puppets.
I will say, like, it is kind of really the stuff where like Blade is like a scared child in the beginning. I really like appreciate that expression that they have,
especially because he looks the most lethal.
Yeah, because he's literally got a hook for a hand and a blade for a hand. Like it's just like he looks like he could do some damage, and he does a little bit.
Yeah.
He slits Dana's throat, and he helps them. I will say, like the whole like the death of Gallagher with all the puppets massacring him. That was actually a really good sequence. But he holds his mouth open for Leech Woman to spit a leech into his mouth. That was fucking disgusting.
How do you like the Leech Woman effect?
It honestly is very off-putting, and it should be. I really like it.
It's crazy because they actually. Like you saw the special effect, how the mouth does bend and they actually shoot leeches out of it.
Yeah.
Easily the reason people like this movie, I'm not even saying the franchise, this movie is the puppet effects.
Yeah.
David Allen is the guy who does the effects, and the
effects like Batteries Not Included. He did some other movies.
The reason that it's so synonymous with him as the puppeteer is that they liked his work so much in this first movie, he directs the second one.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, not me, but a lot, say the second one is the best one. There's some really cool stuff. I will get into more about the sequels when I talk to you more after I ask a few other questions. I think the next question I want to ask is, what is your prior knowledge of the Puppetmaster franchise before this movie?
I knew of the franchise. I'd seen images from the franchise, especially the puppets themselves, and always thought it looked like an interesting franchise. But that's pretty much it. Like I never really investigated like trying to watch them or not. I never really thought about them until you started watching them and talking about them.
So you wouldn't say you were interested in the series before watching this film?
Not crazily. I wouldn't say that I was adverse to it or anything. Not like I was adverse to watching Leprechaun. Like I just did not want to watch that. Whereas this one was just like, oh yeah, I mean, I guess we could watch that one. That sounds, something I haven't seen. It's a franchise I can, maybe watch and get into. Not a big, I wouldn't say this is a big franchise, but a C tier franchise. Like knock that off my list of movies I've never seen or franchises, at least the first movies of. So I was like, oh, it's a good opportunity to kind of get that out of the way. But I never really like prioritized watching these, for sure.
From my knowledge of it, I got like a fucking bootleg DVD of like people talking about, these horror icons, especially of the 80s, and these designs. And when I'd seen it, there was franchises I'd never heard of before. Obviously, it's got Jason, Pinhead, Freddy, Michael, all them. And then I know there's more, but the two I remembered the most out of that DVD was the Puppetmaster, and it had all the puppets in it. I'm like, oh, that fucking Blade design is really fucking cool. I like that a lot. Also, some of the other designs are pretty sick too. I didn't remember them, but Blade stuck out, especially because if you see the word Puppetmaster, you see like the DVD collections or anything,
usually
he's on the cover.
On the front, yeah.
And then I saw Wishmaster, I saw Jin, and I'm like, that design is fucking fantastic. I have to see that just based on that design. That movie makes Puppetmaster look like a fucking masterpiece.
Really?
I think I mean, it's been a long time. It's been over like 5 to 7 years. That movie's fucking terrible.
I haven't seen Wishmaster.
I think
I remember us talking about it, saying like Wishmaster sounds really cool. We should probably check that out sometime. So the thing was, we talked about it when we were starting doing like marathons and stuff.
Mhm.
And it was like Wishmaster's one I've never seen. I kind of want to knock that off the list. It was like we were talking about like that and Pumpkinhead, and you watched it, I didn't watch it, and then you said it was terrible, and I'm like, okay, well I guess I'm not gonna watch that.
Well, I saw Wishmaster a long time ago.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I watched Wishmaster. We were either still in high school, or it was my freshman year of college. So it was.
Oh yeah.
It's been a while since I've seen it. Sound like I'm a fucking grandpa, but no, it's been quite a few years, and I thought I gotta watch it, and I watched the first 3, and there are 4. And after the first 3, I was like, I don't fucking care about watching.
Tapping out.
One. There's only one more, but I just can't do it.
Yeah.
Wish I did, honestly, but. No.
Yeah.
Stupid
Makes sense.
Pun. But yeah, what would you say for Puppetmaster though is the biggest downfall of the film?
The fact that the puppets aren't in it enough, in my opinion. It feels like, so we start the movie out, the first 10 minutes we're seeing the birth of Jester, and we're seeing a couple of the other puppets as Toulon's putting them away, preparing to die. And then after that, it feels like we lose sight of the puppets for like, it feels like 40 fucking minutes. And then they kind of show up mostly for, to kill a couple of people off. But it feels like we don't see the puppets nearly enough, and we focus in on these characters that are so uninteresting that I'm like, we talk about it all the time. It's like, oh, I don't want to watch people die necessarily. Like, I want to be conflicted about people dying in movies like this. I could not give a fuck less about literally any of these characters dying.
Yeah,
they could all fucking die, and I wouldn't care. There's nothing interesting about a single one of them, and listening to them, sitting through their dialogue sequences is excruciating because, there's no building of characters. All we learn about these characters is their psychic powers, which barely come into play.
I would counter that and not even just say, I don't care if they die. You want some of them to die.
Yeah.
I would definitely
not
wanted
feel bad.
Clarissa's boyfriend to die. He's so fucking annoying.
The only thing with Clarissa's boyfriend that I found funny was when he jumped out with the pantyhose over his head.
Yeah, I think that
That's
scene
it.
is pretty funny.
Actually, his death scene is pretty funny.
His death scene is funny.
But I could not give a fuck less about any of these characters, and their psychic powers. For Clarissa, they're irrelevant. They're just there for gags. Like Clark Gable and what's her name banged in that bed, Carol Lombard.
Yeah,
that's irrelevant. Who fucking cares? Like, it doesn't. Not everything spoken has to pertain to the plot, but like her power set does not come into play really. And also, one of the things like they reveal earlier on in the movie is that Gallagher rapes a woman in the elevator. Never talk about that again. It's just a scene. It just happens. Apparently, we don't ever talk about it. We don't bring that up to Megan. Like, it just happened.
I think the whole point of that scene is to point out the fallacy of Gallagher, that like, oh
yeah, that he's a bad person.
It's all, he died, blah blah blah. Megan thinks he's a great husband, and
yeah, I understand. Yeah. I understand that part, but the thing is like, you'd think, that's quite a reveal that would come into play at some point. You don't find out who the person was. You don't find out, what happened after that. You don't find out anything about it. They just show you that, and then they just move on. It's just weird. It just feels really awkward. I was even watching the scene, and I was sitting there like, bet you that does not come back into play ever. I bet you they don't reference it at all throughout the rest of the movie, and they didn't. But yeah, she's just really dull. Alex's powers is dreaming, and leads to one of my least favorite fucking sequences in the movie, when they do like a triple fucking dream sequence.
Oh yeah, that shit's so dumb.
Irritating. The only part about it that I found actually interesting was the one where he pulled the covers up and the heads were under there, because that's just like, it's what the fuck factor is kind of crazy. But it's a triple fucking dream sequence. I hate it. Like, it's just like, oh man, we hit 70 minutes. We need to find a way to extend the runtime a little bit more. And I hate it so much. I really like dream sequences. They're a tough line to walk in movies, and they fucking fell right off the deep end and just ruined that.
How do you feel about the location of the hotel?
I think it's a nice location. I like, spooky hotels are cool. One of the greatest horror movies of all time is about a spooky hotel, The Shining. So I'm down with that stuff. But I don't think they really use the location to their advantage in any sequence, really. So it could be a hotel, it could be an apartment complex, and I wouldn't fucking know the difference, really.
I'd say the biggest question you ask yourself watching the movie is, why does this hotel look so big from the outside and you only cover 3 floors?
I mean, obviously.
Yeah, it's just they make it only seem like there is 3 floors that exist in it.
Yeah, because all you see is the lobby, the dining room.
You only see the lobby in that opening sequence where it's that extravagant.
Yeah, the full lobby, but you also see like the fireplace, which I assume is in the lobby. The elevators, which could be literally anywhere. They definitely don't use that location to its fullest. There's so many different things with like, especially old hotels. There's a lot of things that you can do, like laundry chute related sequences, or all these kind of crazy things that you can do, but it's the least inventive usage of a hotel I've seen in a horror movie in a while.
So I'm gonna continue on with the hotel aspect and the architecture and like how it plays into the films, but more so, you talked about how not having enough of the puppets is the downfall of the film. I'd only counter by saying it's not so much the puppets aren't in it enough, it's Godzilla syndrome. If the puppets aren't gonna be in it enough, the characters gotta be fucking interesting.
Yes.
And that's the thing. Like, it's not so much, I need more puppets, but I need something that I like besides the puppets. And you like nothing besides the puppets in this first film.
I guess, but I would also say that I think that they could afford to use a bit more puppet sequences.
I think it'd be
stalking of all these different things. There's ways to ramp up tension using these puppets that they kind of just don't do. And again, like yeah, it is kind of Godzilla syndrome as well, just because like if you're not going to show me puppets, which is what I came to see, the characters better be cool or at least mildly interesting, and none of them are.
Yeah.
Except for, I would say I kind of like Dana conceptually, but they don't. They still
second or third too, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was sitting there watching because I was.
She
looking
should
at
be like the second to last death.
I was looking at Letterboxd reviews for this movie, and people were like pointing out how much they liked the actress and say like, oh yeah, she's such like, it's a great turn from her. And I'm like, oh, so she's probably gonna be like one of the final people. Dies literally second.
Right after the
like, maid. Yeah, she's like, what? What? She's barely in the movie at that point, honestly. I mean, she has one of the funnier scenes in the movie though, where she's reading Barbara Crampton her fucking fortune, which is pretty funny because she's just like, your grandma's gonna die. She's like, my grandma's already dead. Well, it's actually your grandmother.
Yeah.
That shit's pretty funny, I'm not gonna lie. That's why I was like, when she was introduced, I'm like, oh, she's gonna be my favorite character. And technically I wasn't wrong.
Also, it's funny how Barbara Crampton's in the movie for 5 seconds and that's it.
Yeah, it's because they were the guy who created this was kind of involved with like Reanimator and stuff like that. So
they have the rights to Reanimator.
Yeah, he kind of had her in call.
They also I don't
People
think
made
the
a big
rights
deal about her being in it, and I thought she was gonna be in the movie.
Yes.
So when she was just like, oh, she's getting her fortune read, I'm like, oh, is she like the main character? Are we gonna follow her? That's pretty cool.
It'd be a better movie. It instantly be a better movie.
But then they cut to the fucking to Clarissa and what's his name at the thing, having her describe her sexual fantasies and him getting all fucking bonery about it, and I'm just sitting there like, oh no. How do you like Tunneler killing Clarissa? How do you like that death? See, so when it happened, I was like, oh, because like I was reading the back of the box, and the back of the box was talking about like, look, they had like the little rating at the bottom, and they're like strong, brutal, graphic violence or whatever, and I'm like, oh man, these kills are gonna be fucking crazy. They don't show you shit. That's fine though. That doesn't bother me too much, because the bloody hand reaching up on the beds, that's enough for me. And then the eventual aftermath is really well done in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, like Tunneler's cool, so I'm cool with him killing her. It is kind of really fucked up considering, they were having sex and she gets killed through her mouth.
Yeah.
Very obvious.
A double entendre, yeah.
Yeah.
And then Leech Woman obviously spits the leeches in his mouth.
Yeah, I mean, I really dug that kill. That I'll say that's the only kill in this movie that I found remotely interesting.
The tunneler one?
Yeah, that's it.
You
The
like
leech one's kind of cool. The leech one's kind of cool. It's just kind of gross, but it's kind of cool.
It is
but
gross.
The
It's
one,
supposed to be gross, but yeah.
Yeah, 100%. But I would say definitely that the best kill in the movie is easily Tunneler.
I'd say easily the worst kill in the movie is Pinhead with the maid.
So,
I don't think it's that bad.
I like one aspect of that kill. She gets clobbered over the head with the fucking fire pick.
Yeah.
Her blood splatters into the fire and it hisses.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. It is a very plain Jane kill. But like, I wouldn't say that's any more plain Jane than say Dana getting her throat slit, although it's more prolonged.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's not a lot of killing in this.
There's not a lot of characters is the biggest problem. Like,
yeah.
As the films go on, they get either a bigger cast or a similar cast, which the same amount of people. The deaths are more extravagant, or at least you like the characters a little bit more. I think this movie easily has the worst characters. Easily. And I've gone through all of them.
They're barely characters.
Yeah, I've gone through all of them. There's worse movies than this one. There are much worse. You'd be like, it can't be possible.
Oh, I have no doubt.
And some of the characters are just bad, but there's always some good characters. Like, yeah. I think I like every protagonist decently in all of the films except Axis Rising. Fuck that protagonist. He's so bad. But every other film, they're fine or they're pretty good. But holy shit, like, yeah, these fucking people. They're so
mostly
bad.
Just nothing. They're mostly just nothing characters, and like they try to create drama. Like, it's just ridiculous.
What would you say is the biggest positive of the film?
Puppets, puppet effects. I will say, like, I do want to state for the record that the opening 10 minutes are actually really good. The stuff with the 30s are really good. I'm very impressed. Funny. I'm very impressed by the camera work. For the most part, some of it is very obviously the scale for where the camera is versus where the puppet's head should be is often wrong.
Oh, yes.
And also, there's a lot of times where the camera, if you know, this is supposed to be the point of view of Blade, there are people who either look directly at the camera or he is definitely in their field of view and they just magically don't notice him.
Also, Blade should be about a foot tall, if not 15 inches tall.
Yeah, so it's like, but yeah, I'm telling you, you wouldn't notice if that motherfucker ran by you.
Yeah.
So they kind of just movie magic it away, like, oh, everyone's just absolutely oblivious. Like, it's glaringly obvious.
My favorite is when people do notice him, they freak out. It's like, oh yeah, they see something small running around.
No one shouts, says, hey, there's a puppet fucking running by me.
It's worse though. It's like, if you saw a jester, whatever, it's like, okay, that's kind of startling and confusing, but like, Blade has a hook and a knife. Like, he's so terrifying. If I was like, that thing has to get the fuck away from me.
To be fair, a lot of the time when he's running around in that opening scene, the knife is not out because it does retract.
Yes.
He has the hook only. And I could see someone looking at the hook and be like, oh, that's a fake hook for a puppet. But it is definitely not a fake hook. But either way though, if I saw a fucking puppet running by me without a puppeteer, I'm saying something. Like,
oh, absolutely.
Hey, there's a puppet running by me, or I'm fucking absolutely goalie kicking that fucker out of here. So, yeah, no, it is very, very. It breaks any kind of verisimilitude. I would say that it's weird to use that word for a movie like this, but you know, I cannot believe in my brain, as suspending disbelief as much as I can, that no one noticed that fucking puppet up until someone finally saw him. It's ridiculous. It happens even like after the opening 10 minutes. Like, he's running around the hallways of the hotel and he's like dodging around people, and like, you're telling me you could not see that puppet, man? He's by your feet. Like, what are you doing? Do you have tunnel vision? Like, can you not see anything outside of what is literally in front of your face? Ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And I don't like nitpicking like this, but it's very obvious because of the low budget like filmmaking.
Yes.
It's like you can't not notice that.
So, another thing I want to bring up is you said it to me offhand. I want to ask you now. You are not interested in watching the rest of the films after this movie?
Absolutely not.
100%?
No.
Okay.
If you wanted to cover 2 on the podcast, I would stomach through it. But I'm going to do it. Like, I don't really want to watch Leprechaun, but I already agreed to that, so we're gonna do that.
Well, 2's not my favorite.
What?
You said if
for
you
Leprechaun
want
or this?
For Puppetmaster. 2's not my favorite.
Whatever one like you want.
I gave you a copy of 3. It's in the VHS box that I gave you.
Is that what the DVD is?
Yes, the DVD inside the. Like,
oh,
the
I didn't
cover.
even look at that. I just looked at it and said, "Oh, it's a Blu-ray DVD."
Yep, that's an extra copy of 3. You can keep
lovely.
that.
Lovely.
This is the box set. These are the 12 Blu-rays for the collection. First of all, it only covers 11 movies. The 12th one is special features. So that's how they fuck you. You have to get the special features in the fucking Blu-ray box. There is 11 films right here. All right, you've seen the first Puppetmaster. Okay, I have no brain.
Is that from Full Moon, or is that from like Scream Factory?
Full Moon. First of all,
It actually looks like a nice kind of like a solid Blu-ray set.
So I'm gonna tell you that you're wrong.
Okay.
Because you've seen the Blu-ray, the one I gave you. It looks bootleg, doesn't it?
No, I mean like you have like almost all movies have like their own case and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's kind of nice. So
nice.
It's nice that they sprung for that, because especially looking at that and looking at what you handed me, this shit looks bad.
The problem is like all the covers. I'm fine with it. I don't care. This one's different than the one you got, but they all look like the material isn't glossy. Like they didn't pay for anything.
Like they printed it out of their printer.
Yeah, it looks like somebody just said, "Hey man, here's
burn you a
here's
copy."
the Blu-ray," and it's like, dude, that's not a Blu-ray. You made that yourself. Shut the fuck up. No, I did not. Like all the Blu-rays look like that.
Yeah.
And that kind of sucks. But you've seen the first one. The first one, I'll go through because I wanted to make sure I finished all of them before we did this, so I could talk about every single one and where it sits on a scale, so you could be like, holy fuck, it's only there? Because these do get really fucking bad, man. And then there's some that are like genuinely really good. The biggest problem with this film is Jason Syndrome. You really like the puppets, right? The puppets are fucking cool. They're the bad guys until the last 5 minutes where they just switch on Gallagher because apparently he beats his wife. As other films go on, they're good guys. Like they become heroes.
Actually, they switch on him because of the way that he
beats up on like Jester and shit. Yeah.
That's why they flip on him.
He fucking throws. I think it is Jester or Pinhead or one of them. Those fucking stupid shit, and they're like
both.
Okay.
I actually think both.
Then they're like, "Whoa, buddy, that's part of the crew." When they fuck him up, that's pretty cool too.
It's clobbering time.
They're, like I said, I've gone through 13 of them. This is the 8th best out of 13. Yeah. And because biasly the movie's not very good, I think the effects are pretty good. David Allen does a great job. I like the designs. The opening's really good. The setup with Toulon. You only see Toulon for 10 minutes, but that opening
So you're telling me there's 5 movies worse than this?
Oh yeah, and I've told you, Puppetmaster Legacy is a clip show as a movie. Like,
I wouldn't even count that.
No, but it does count. It is a movie. There's like maybe 8 minutes of original material put in there. But it's like watching a fucking clip show of like a regular TV show. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible.
Talk about a fucking cash grab.
Yeah, 100%. It's the word. I think it's their way of saying, "Oh, this is the timeline," and it doesn't make sense. First
or maybe
of all,
it's like a greatest hits movie, but they're calling it
you said
entry of the franchise.
Oh, it's cool how they cover shit in the 30s. In this movie, Toulon dies in 1939, right?
Yeah.
That's not true. He doesn't die in 39. In the third one, he escapes Nazi Germany in 1941. So he can't die in 39. He dies in 41. That's like the official Toulon dies 41. That's it. They've retconned it to be 41. This is just wrong. And it's the first one. They change a lot of shit too. Would you say you like Toulon though as a character?
I mean, I guess he's barely in the movie.
But he's
I wouldn't even call him a
sympathetic,
character.
he cares about the puppets, he seems like a good person.
Yeah, he seems like he's a kind Giuseppe kind of fucking guy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he seemed like he really cares about the puppets. I wish he was the main character of the fucking movie.
And that's why other films are better. So,
okay.
If you like the idea of like the Puppetmaster, 2, 3, 4, and 5 hit on that shit crazy. So 2, I'm not gonna tell you everything that happens into it, but Toulon gets resurrected from the puppets, and his outfit 100% is based on the Invisible Man. He's covered in rags.
I mean, he'd be fucking Bones, bro. Like,
who fucking cares?
I'm just saying, like, he'd have to be wrapped up. He'd be fucking Bones.
You see him in the movie. Don't worry, but like, he gets resurrected, and he's an antagonist. And then in the third one, it's a prequel, and it all takes place in Nazi Germany as Toulon's trying to leave.
Yes.
The third film, easily my favorite. The cinematography is good. The acting in it, for most of the people, is really good. The Nazi stuff, the people who play the Nazis are fucking great. They're so terrible. You have that movie. I would genuinely recommend you watch that movie. I think you'd actually be like, this is just really fucking fun. This is really good. The killing is pretty good. It gives motivation for every single one of the puppets, which is pretty cool. 4 takes place afterwards, where it's about, this is the next generation of Puppetmaster. This one guy finds the puppets. He's like in charge of the hotel right now, and he becomes friends with the puppets. He's like training them and helping them out and do shit, and they're like hanging out. It's pretty fucking fun. You have to kill a bunch of these like little fucking evil minions from like this demon or whatever that has because he has this. The secret is from Egypt. You learn that in the second movie. That's where he.
You learn that in the first movie.
Oh yeah, because he has a script or whatever.
And Gallagher talks about it.
But there's a scene in the second one where he goes to Egypt.
Actually, as like a aside, it's really funny that when they explain that, they're like, Toulon used the ancient art of giving life to inanimate objects, as if that's like the phrase that they use in fucking Egypt.
Yeah.
It's like it's like the ancient art known as giving life to inanimate objects.
Yeah, it's written just like that too.
It's like, okay, well.
But the fourth one, the person who created that spell or whatever is like a fucking demon, and he's trying to kill Toulon's puppets because nobody on Earth should have this power. So you have the new puppet master fighting that demon, whatever. The fifth one continues right off of that one. It happens the exact next day after that fourth one finishes up. Pretty cool. That's the end of the original series.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they all connect on later, and it all becomes one big mishmash. But that's when David Allen, who does the puppeteering and stuff, leaves. That's when everything gets worse. 2 through 5, regardless of quality, I think are genuinely the best ones. After that, it just kind of hits the shits or sometimes. Curse of Puppetmaster is like a soft reboot where it doesn't mention anything except for, I think, Toulon. All the puppets are back.
Yeah.
And you follow this new dude who's like...
Do they lose some of the puppets? Like some of them die or something?
In some movies, some puppets die.
Oh, that's crazy.
But they come back without explanation.
It's cool.
In 2, they introduce Torch. They introduce him in the second one, and he's gone in the fourth one for no reason. The third one... No, he's not in the third one, obviously, because it's a prequel. But he's in the fifth one. And the dude's like, Torch, go do this. And I literally stopped there like, whoa, hold the fuck up. Where did Torch come from? He wasn't... The fifth one happens right after the fourth one. And I'm like, when the fuck did Torch get in here?
It was his day off. It was his spa day.
And the craziest shit is like, they filmed 4 and 5 back to back. They filmed... Why the fuck is he only in one movie?
They filmed them back to back, and they had the Torch puppet, and they just decided not to have him in 4. Wild.
Torch is sick. I think Torch is a great design. But it was just so fucking weird. He doesn't show up in some, he shows up in others. Also, Jester, they show him creating him in the first movie. He's in the prequel. Like, he's in other of them. So you have to assume that, like, maybe Jester
he's touching up his paint.
Maybe Jester got, like, destroyed or something, or something.
Yeah.
He rebuilt him.
Or he's touching up the paint.
He's in other ones. So 6 is Curse. They go over, it follows some fucking dude who's trying to use Toulon's magic to create his own puppet. He hasn't been able to successfully do it yet, or he's trying to create a human puppet, it's a cool idea.
Sounds like that could be really creepy.
It is creepy. I think the movie's really good, but the ending fucking sucks. That hinders the entire film. The next one is the fucking recap movie. So honestly, just say you said fuck it, I want to watch all of them. I'm one for completing everything. Just skip the recap movie.
You can skip
It means
skip
nothing.
Legacy.
It has nothing to it. After that, it's Retro Puppetmaster, where it's got the dude from The Room.
Oh, Greg Sestero.
He's in it. He's the main character. He plays Toulon, like a young Toulon.
See, that'd be worth it.
It's pretty fun. It's just boring. It's like, that's a contradictory statement. Actually,
Wonder why they call it fucking retro Puppetmaster.
Because it's a prequel, like even before Nazi Germany.
Oh,
it's like
it's just that seems like a really weird usage of retro.
Also, it doesn't make sense. It can't fit together with the rest of the movie or the rest of the franchise.
Well, is it a prequel to the reboot or is it a prequel to the franchise?
Prequel to the franchise.
Okay, well, I can't help you there, huh?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense because him and his wife are married when they go to Egypt and get the spell and shit.
Yep.
With the way this movie ends, it's like they just get together and they're heading to Egypt, and it's like that doesn't really make sense. The dude's way younger. It's a lot of stupid shit. It doesn't make sense. Also, you see how Blade is made in the third one. You see the person whose soul gets transferred into Blade, but there's a retro Blade in this movie, which doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Especially because
I want to point out, because you brought up Blade. I was watching when he first shows up on screen. I looked at him like, dude, is that Eric Roberts? You know who Eric Roberts is?
No.
Oh man. I couldn't unsee it the entire rest of the movie. I'm like, yo, if he ever talks, he should be voiced by Eric Roberts. If he's not, it's disappointing.
That happens. Retro Puppetmaster happens. That's pretty uneventful, but Greg is pretty fun as a lead. After Retro Puppetmaster, I guess Retro is actually the one after Curse. Whatever. Just skip Legacy, like I said before. Then they do a trilogy, and this is called the Axis trilogy.
Yeah.
This all takes place. This is all during Nazi Germany. This is immediately after the first 10 minutes in Puppetmaster. So, you know how Toulon kills himself and shit?
Yep.
So, apparently when he kills himself, there's some fucking dude who's got like a fucking limp leg, is below Toulon and worked with him. And after Toulon kills himself, he goes up and gets the puppets. So, this is immediately after Toulon's death. And these 3 films all are continuations, and it's all about trying to fight Nazi Germany in America, and how there's a bunch of fucking like covert Nazis just being underground in America and taking them out and using the puppets to do it. The first one, because it's taking place in the 40s, right? So everyone's trying to be like, well, gosh darn, buddy, I tell you what, I'll help you out if it's the darnest thing I could ever do. We're going to serve our country. And
what you doing? Say.
And they all sound like that. And it's some of the most hokey fucking acting, and it's so bad. But it's like enjoyably bad. It's like, okay.
So that's good.
It's like Dana, where like it should be bad, but it's still enjoyable.
Yeah.
That movie, it's definitely existing. It's there. And then the next one comes out, Axis Rising. Fuck Axis Rising. It's so boring. All the acting is not fun bad, it's just fucking turn it off bad, and it's just bland as shit. They make new puppets that look terrible, and that's the worst thing. These 3 films came out 2010, 2012, and 2017. They're all complete HD. You see everything high quality. These puppets look like shit. If you watch the first Puppetmaster, you'll say those designs look really good. Like when he's painting Jester looks very detailed.
Yeah.
He looks ugly as fuck in the HD movies. All the puppets look terrible. I don't know how, I don't know why, but they are all god awful. And as the films go on, it's just like, dude, it is 2017, my man. Get a new fucking puppet. The newest one is a continuation of the Axis movies. It's called Blade the Iron Cross.
No?
No,
Okay.
Blade the Iron Cross came out 2020. I just watched that today. It's actually not bad. It's pretty good. The only thing about the Axis trilogy is, you know how when people shoot people with a gun, they put like CG bullet holes in them? That shit's written throughout these movies. It looks terrible.
Oh, yeah.
But when people get like cut up, some of the effects are pretty good. They're like spouting blood. That's the special effects for the murders can be pretty decent.
Yeah.
In Blade the Iron Cross, they show Blade with so many close-ups. You can tell the hook and the blade aren't real. That it's like styrofoam or just paper mache or just like some other material that just looks fake. And there's a scene where she's sharpening his blade and I'm like, hey man, why didn't you just get a regular fucking knife? Like,
yeah.
Why couldn't you do that? Just take it out. Like, oh yeah, well, we'll just get a real knife for the sharpening scene and then we'll switch it over. But it looks so bad. The puppets look so bad. And I don't understand why. Littlest Reich is a reboot. It's a completely different studio that takes care of it, not Full Moon. It's really good.
See, I wanted to, that's the only one that I actually really actually wanted to watch.
I'll
more
say
so than this
it's
because
my third favorite out of all the franchise.
Yeah, because the writer of the movie is the writer of Brawl in Cell Block 99, Drive Across Concrete, Bone Tomahawk, 3 really, really well-regarded films. And Puppetmaster is nothing fucking like them. But
I like the
even
movie.
people who disagree with the concepts that are in those 3 movies, they're like, well, it's really well written. Like the dialogue's great, the plot line is strong. It's just maybe I don't agree with the politics of it.
There's good humor in the movie, especially for
yeah, he's good at writing humor. So it's like when I heard he was the writer on, I'm like, oh, that sounds interesting.
There's good writing, but there's also some really bad ones.
I don't think he wrote it alone.
Probably not.
I just know he was involved. He definitely helped write it. So I remember it being kind of a big deal when it came out.
Barbara Crampton comes back in Littlest Reich. She's a supporting character. She's good in it though. I think all the acting is pretty good.
Is Littlest Reich back in World War II or is it?
Nope. It's like current
modern day.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only
I remember this
one
one.
is a good guy in all of the movies except for the second one. He's like a good person. He always meant well. Littlest Reich, he's the bad guy. He's the villain. So the biggest problem with the movie is just if you like the Puppetmaster films, it's kind of tough to get through. First of all, there's 60 puppets in it. The designs look like shit, and there's not one blade, there's 5. So when there's multiple of one puppet, you just feel like you don't care. The puppets are really unimportant in the movie.
Yeah.
So that kind of sucks. I don't like that very much. The designs for most of them are not very good, I feel. They're updated designs, and I get that, but some of them are just really fucking lazy. They purposely don't bring back Jester, which is in every